Hello guys, today's video is a special video. It is a podcast video with a special guest named Samuel. And in this podcast video, we will be going over the topics of education, sustainability, student life, and more. The podcast name is Borderlines and Horizons. This is done in collaboration with Samuel, who is a special guest in this episode. So this is the podcast 1 HD. So this is the first podcast we're going to be releasing. And the total duration for this podcast is 45 minutes. So it's under 45 minutes approx. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And the time codes are in the description box so that you guys can skip to any parts of the video that you guys want to check it out. And description on each part of the video is written down in the description, so do check the description box. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, let's start the video. Right, so hello guys, welcome to today's new podcast video which we are releasing, which is the Borderlines and Horizons podcast. Today we have a remarkable guest joining us, someone who wants to make a positive impact in the world and is going to talk with me on the topics of education, sustainability, and empowering student life, and even more. So please give a warm welcome to Samuel, who's a good friend of mine, and in this under 40-minute podcast, we'll share some valuable insights and how we can all contribute to building a more sustainable and enlightened tomorrow. So let's dive right in and explore the fascinating ideas and experiences Samuel and I have to share in this podcast. So yeah, Sam, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. As you know, my name is Samuel Verghese. I am a enthusiastic Model United Nations delegate and participant. I've chaired several times and delegated. I'm also an avid writer. I write a lot. I have a tech blog if you're interested. I even write a lot of poetry. And I just spend my time engaging in things that tickle my fancy.
Wow, that's awesome. So we're just gonna have few topics that we're gonna be discussing in this podcast. So the first thing that I'm gonna ask is, as a student in your final year of high school, what are your thoughts on the current education system? Are there any changes you'd like to see to better prepare students for the future?
Thank you for that question. So the current education system, I think, is profoundly important and extremely crucial. It's extremely crucial in building up future generations and people alike. I think there are certain changes that need to be made to the education system. Some of them require us, putting our thinking hats together and really coming up with solutions, not just to, enlighten students so that they can become employees and just put them in the workforce, but also ensuring that they grow up to have the necessary values and working hard to make them good individuals and help them contribute to society. I think that's incredibly important.
So basically, create good, positive, creative entrepreneurs through the education system.
For sure. And a sense of social responsibility as well, to be inculcated into these children who are coming up and require guidance. I think that's incredibly important and incredibly crucial.
Oh wow. All right. So the next one is sustainability is a good topic to discuss on. Since the rise of the usage of renewable energy, what do you think can inspire students or people in general to become passionate about sustainability and contribute actively to a greener and more sustainable future? Is it through their academics or their personal walk in life?
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think sustainability is incredibly common these days. I think we hear that word a lot. Sustainability, in terms of not just the environment, but in terms of systems that we see nowadays. I think we have to remember that protecting the environment and protecting the world that we live in is an incredibly fruitful cause that we as people can helm, because as we know it today, where we carry the responsibility, and I think it's our job to ensure that the world that we live in is preserved, and you know is preserved for future generations and people to come. I think those who succeed us also have similar expectations, and I think it's an incredibly fruitful cause that we have to, work together towards achieving.
That's very insightful. Like, so what do you think are like the steps that students can do, like small steps to promote
I think
sustainability?
Yes, sustainability. I think there are certain things that students can do. I think first and foremost, do everything that's in your power to ensure that we have a well protected environment. When you're in the washroom and you don't want to waste water, turn the faucet off, because water is an incredibly important resource that we have to protect and we have to save. Electricity as well. I think switching off the light when you leave the room. I think that's another. It's a small step, but every drop makes up an ocean. I think that's incredibly important that we take those small steps in order to ensure that our larger goals and our larger ambitions in terms of the environment can be achieved.
What about like starting clubs, like students in schools? They can
Yes,
start clubs. Yeah.
I think a sense of social awareness as far as the environment is concerned is incredibly important. I think students should be made aware of the things that are happening to the planet, climate change, the use of harmful resources, the use of harmful energy. I think students should be made aware of those things in order for them to, take the necessary steps to help preserve the environment and preserve our planet.
Yeah. Similar to like the club we had started in the school, we had the Eco Club. We had like
Oh
initiatives.
yes. The Echo Club I think
Yeah.
was an incredibly brilliant idea. I think schools and educational institutions, I think it's important that they start more clubs like this. Starting, doing cleanup drives, things like that. Those small steps can help ensure that bigger, more collective goals are achieved as far as our planet and our globe is concerned. I think those should be promoted and put forth even more.
Yeah. Well, what happens if we like add incentives like to these clubs? Like
Yeah,
maybe to bring in more kids, students
yes.
into this.
I think incentivizing something like this would be incredibly fruitful, because honestly, children they don't feel as though they're being valued for their time. I think that's something that could be incredibly useful by incentivizing things like this. We are oh okay, sorry about that. Yes, so by incentivizing things like this, I think it's incredibly fruitful, because they feel valued and they also know that yes, I'm making a change, but I'm also being rewarded for it. So it pushes them to do even more. Pushes them to take even more actions like that.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, this one, student life. This part of the journey can be both exciting and unique. What are some valuable lessons that you have learned during your high school journey, and how do you balance your academics with personal development and well being? Basically, like your hobbies mixed with your academics.
Wow, yes. Okay, that's an amazing question. I think there's so much to unpack here as far as high school is concerned. I think high school can be an incredibly exciting time for students, but it can also be incredibly stressful. I think I think there should be some sort of balance that everybody sets. In fact, I think students should be able to, take a step back once in a while from their educational responsibilities and their academics, and be like, okay, I've been working really hard this year, and you better be, because education is important for sure. I think students should take the time to step back and be like, I've been working really hard this year. I think I deserve a little free time. And the use of that time, the time you allocate for yourself, I think that's also really important. Stepping away from education doesn't necessarily mean you stop learning and you stop developing yourself, because education is one facet of self-development, right? Using your own personal resources and your time apart from school, I think that's important. And I think taking up new hobbies and really the internet is filled, is saturated with resources that you can use to, develop yourself and grow as an individual. I think students should be able to, really take up those causes.
Yeah, so you like use all of this to balance your academics with personal development and well-being. So
Certainly.
yeah, that's like for me, like I would try to do exciting things like making videos, podcasts, like during your free time during the summer holidays. That could really give a good insight into balancing your academics as well as your personal well-being.
Certainly.
Anything that can help you feel good, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think taking up things like hobbies is also really important, but you should also give yourself some time for entertainment. I think especially growing up in countries where you're not from as an immigrant, I think the study all the time mentality, like work yourself as hard as you can mentality, I think that's really gotten to certain people. And I think we should really take the time off once in a while to really enjoy ourselves and enjoy life. I think surrounding yourself with people that you care about and love, as well as having good support systems when you're taking the time away from your education, I think that's really important. Not only for your physical well-being, but for your mental well-being as well.
Speaking of hobbies, books seem to play a significant role in shaping our perspectives. Could you share a book that has profoundly impacted you and explain how it influenced your outlook on life? And also, how much reading should a person do in a day as a student who has other activities going on? Like the time frame for that. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So I really books are incredibly important. I think they play a significant role in shaping our perspectives. I think the notion that you can only learn from psychological books, I think that's incredibly flawed. I think you can really learn from anything. I think I've seen a lot of people talk about mindset books. I've not really. My perspectives haven't been shaped by any of those because I'm not a person that necessarily enjoys those books or that particular genre. I'm more into fiction, right? Because most of the time, I take on reading as a form of entertainment and as a form of leisure. So I think a certain book that I really enjoyed would be this book series that I like. It's called Bodyguard. It's a work of fiction. Obviously, it's espionage fiction. For those who don't know what espionage fiction is, it's a genre of spy fiction. It's something that's incredibly. It's an amazing book. It's written by this author Chris Bradford. I love his work. He's written a lot of teen novels. And I think that sort of genre is something that really resonates with me. It didn't only teach me about certain things, it also taught me about certain states of mind. I think that was incredibly important. And even though it's a storybook, I feel like there's a lot of, life lessons that you can learn from not just psychological books, but books that are works of fiction as well.
And how much reading about that question?
I feel as far as reading is concerned, I think you should allocate at least an hour a day. I think as students, you have a lot of academic reading that you are allocated within a year of your schooling. I think taking the time to, put away the academic stuff and like really enjoy reading as a pleasure, I think that's something that's important. I think dedicating an hour to that every day will do you some good, not just for your academics, but for your mental health as well.
So what is the time frame? Like roughly 1 to 2 hours? Is that like the minimum?
Yeah, one to 1.5 or 1 to 2 hours,
depending on your schedules, right?
Yes, for sure. I think having a well set schedule is something that's important as well. And I think finding time that is best suited for you, I think that's important.
Same thing, like if you're a high school student currently studying, you guys can, if there's a library around, I think allocating at least 1 hour during your free time to read books.
Yeah, we would know that. We're always hanging out at the library.
Yeah.
So I think ensuring that you have a time out of your a certain set period of time, a certain frame of time where you can just enjoy reading, because oftentimes academics can take the fun out of reading, and I think enjoying books that are more suited to you can really bring back the love for reading that you have.
Can you force habit reading? Can you force yourself into reading?
That's a really good question. So I think personally, I think you can. So reading is not something that everybody necessarily enjoys, obviously, because we live in this hyper modular age where everything is at our fingertips, and people much rather would visually consume media rather than read. I think that's something that's taken over the globe. I think we should definitely bring back the love for reading. I think reading is definitely something that's crucial, and I think you can force habit reading. You can definitely try reading something that's more suited to you or something that you would enjoy more, rather than just succumbing to like educational reading or like academic reading, be it your textbooks or any material that you have within your subject or within your course in high school.
Yeah.
I think by reading something that you enjoy, your love for reading, for the stuff that you get in school, I think that will set that back into focus. I think that will bring back the love that you have for reading, just overall, not just for anything that brings you entertainment.
So like if someone's starting out to read a book, I think roughly spend at least reading like 2 to 3 chapters as a start.
Yes, definitely.
And then build on it, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I think a lot of reading is motivated by the interest that you gain while you're reading. I think.
What about comic books?
Comic books?
Yeah,
wow,
I mean,
okay.
That's an interesting topic. Is that considered reading? What do you think? Or is it...
Okay, so comic books, I actually believe that you can read a comic book. I believe that reading comic books is definitely something that can motivate people, because I think some might argue that comic books are more pictures than to actual text. But I think comic books are a very lucrative industry, and I think reading comic books can shape your views on the world and the world around us. I personally think that comic books are technically reading.
So, you have any 5 books to read? Any names to recommend people for reading and like their first time reading a book?
What
5 books
I would recommend for people for their first time reading? Okay, that's a really good question. I feel like there were certain books that I personally grew up with. I think reading is based on your beginner level. So if you're a child under the age of like maybe like 7 to 10, I think beginner level books would suit you. Stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid or A to Z Mysteries, stuff like that. I think that those series would really suit you.
What about high school students?
Okay, so high school students, it's that would be kind of hard to tell because different kids in high school enjoy different genres of reading. I think anything above an intermediate level would suit high school students. So, like I previously mentioned, the Bodyguard series by Chris Bradford. I think those would suit someone in higher middle school to all the way to high school. I think a book like that or a series like that would suit high school students. Even things like Percy Jackson, and Chronicles of Narnia. That entire series is quite a good series to read and really take on stuff like that. So definitely find your niche. I think find a genre that really resonates with you and something that you enjoy. And I think the passion for reading will definitely come back.
Is watching movies about the book, is that a good way of summarizing your knowledge visually?
Okay, that's a really controversial question. So, certain people feel certain ways about movies that are inspired by books. I'm a bit of a sucker for this because I like certain movies more than I like certain books. Their book counterparts. So, I think you should definitely test the waters a bit first. So, if there's a certain franchise or a certain series that you enjoy the movies more than you actually enjoy reading the books, I think you should definitely do it. I think definitely testing out both before you make a conscious decision is something that would help you, gauge whether you would enjoy it more in the movie form or in the book form.
Wow, that's awesome. So we all have unique interests and hobbies outside of academics. What are some of your favorite things to do when you're not studying, and how do they contribute to your personal development?
Okay, so I love that question. I think there are certain things that I do besides my academic work and besides the stuff I do at school. I enjoy a lot of writing. I'm an avid writer. I write a lot of poetry. I even have a tech blog. I think writing for me personally has been a good outlet to navigate this energy that I have outside of my education and outside of school. I think it's really been a source of stability for me. In terms of navigating energy that I don't want to use for schoolwork and for my education.
Anything apart from writing, like anything else that you do? Like...
Apart from writing, I honestly, this hobbies don't necessarily have to be things that are things that they don't necessarily have to be things that you would do sitting down. I think playing sports. A lot of people enjoy sports for hobbies.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's incredibly nice as well. I do a little bit of working out, stuff like that. I think that's also incredibly fun. I think hanging out with friends. Now, people wouldn't necessarily consider that a hobby, but I think hanging out with friends and doing things that you enjoy right now is a hobby. Like what we're doing right now. This is a hobby. We're creating a new one. I think stuff like this would definitely be a source for newfound passion, because once you've spent a summer or a break doing something that you enjoy, when you go back to school, you're going to find a new sense of passion. You're going to find a new sense of rejuvenation that you can then use, and that you could then force your way onto schoolwork and stuff that you would do at school. I think taking that time off is incredibly crucial. I think that would really help you grow as an individual.
Wow. So, as a young leader, what do you perceive are the most pressing issues that students face today? And what steps do you think schools and communities can take to address these challenges effectively? I think the resources are plenty, right? I mean, from the outlook of that.
So certainly, I think there we as a community and as a school and as like a young leader, as you said, I think there are incredibly pressing issues, especially with regards to children. I think with young minds, I think oftentimes there are systems that we force onto children. I think we're trying to confine them into a box. We're trying to squeeze them into a box that they don't necessarily want to be in. This also can be with regard to mental health. I think students nowadays, they don't feel motivated to study because a lot of the time the systems that have been put in place for them to be educated, I think they don't necessarily want. I think even bringing on more useful strategies and more something that's more
Basically,
catered to
making them to find what they love doing and what they love studying, like,
yes, certainly.
and
I think that
fostering their skills on that subject.
yeah, I think fostering a sense of of community and of something that is a bit more widespread over a group of people rather than just individual people, I think is something that is incredibly important. I think is crucial, instrumental in their development. I think even finding subjects and content matter that children will actually enjoy, but doing it in an educational manner. I think that's something that's incredibly important.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. What about starting clubs and participating in them? I know that you have participated in events hosted by the MUN Club. Can you share more insights on the club that you are participating in, basically the MUN, what it is and what you most enjoy and do there?
So I've been doing MUN for a while now, and I started when there was no MUN club. So
Wow.
there wasn't a club when I wanted to when I was doing MUN when I started out, and I think starting clubs and starting student activities outside of the educational sphere, I think that's something that should be taken up even more. I think engaging students in things that they may not necessarily do in the classroom, I think that helps better them and grow them. I think I believe that ensuring that students are given places and platforms to express themselves outside of the academic space is something that we should encourage more, not just in schools but throughout our community.
So
I think
you enjoy the collaboration more in the MUN Club.
yes,
Yeah.
certainly. I think there's a difference in the precedent that is set between collaborating within the classroom and collaborating outside of it. So ensuring that the sense of collaboration that you feel outside of the classroom is something that is inculcated back into it. So I think by giving students platforms and spaces where they can really express themselves, I think that would only do them some good and do them good when they come back to the classroom in the educational space.
Wow. So about innovation and creativity among students, can educational institutions use clubs like these, like the MUN, Echo Club, or Chess Club, to foster an environment like that encourages innovation, or is it through project work?
Okay, yeah. So innovation and creativity, I think a sense of innovation is only fostered through the spaces and through through the places and spaces that you give to children outside of the classroom. I feel like creativity, that there can be spaces where creativity is achieved. I think project work is really good in terms of letting students be creative, but there is only a certain level. There is a cutoff point how creative you can be within the classroom. Because at the end of the day, the classroom is only a part of a bigger educational infrastructure. I think by encouraging them to take on other activities, I think that's where true innovation can be achieved, because it's untethered, right? It's unbound. There is nothing standing in the way of the achievements and the creativity that students can achieve outside of that sphere.
What
I think
about
there's
let's say like a subject, for example, English literature? What do you think? What a project that can foster creativity? Is it just by normal academics questions?
so I took English literature for 2 years for my GCSEs. I think something that I think encouraging students to watch movies, encouraging them to watch shows based on the texts that they're reading, and really analyze the differences. That's something that could be an incredibly fun activity for students to enjoy. I think doing something along those lines would be incredibly fun and make the classroom a better place, a better space for learning. I think something like that would be incredibly grateful.
Yeah, so collaboration and teamwork is very essential in tackling complex issues. Could you share an example of a successful collaborative project you've been part of and the lessons you've learned from it? Like, let's say, like this podcast. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Something like, we've been working on this for a while now. I think doing something collaboratively in spaces that are in spaces that cater to you. I think that's something that you can really enjoy.
Because it's completely different from the way when people try to do it solo. Let's say solo projects.
Oh yeah, certainly. I think working with like-minded individuals is something that only enhances the way that you work and only benefits you. I think nothing. Oftentimes, very little bad can come from collaboration. I say that with a grain of salt, obviously, because the world today is only a reflection
of collaboration.
Of collaboration, yes. So for sure.
Yeah. And what do you think about, I mean, this channel mainly has some videos based on ICT. What do you think about ICT and the subjects that you have taken? Is there any tips on that for students or people listening to this podcast might use for their academic journey in respect to subjects? I know that you had taken, like you said, English literature. Any insights for tips?
So ICT is a really good one. I took ICT as well for my GCSEs and A-levels. ICT, so my dad likes to tell me this all the time. The world today is based around technology and computers and things like that. I think adopting skills that center around technology. I think that's incredibly important, because we are moving towards a tech-centric world. I think that really taking your time to learn about those things, I think, is really important. It doesn't necessarily even have to be IT skills. It can just be about technology, the way that the world works, because learning IT and being interested in technology, they're two different things, right? There is a lot of crossover, but I think just finding ways to, learn about the world around us and the direction that we're moving in, I think adopting skills related to technology, I think, is something that's incredibly important for us.
Do you use any learning methods, let's say like the Pomodoro techniques or past paper methods or note making? Is there any techniques that you use to learn subjects?
So personally, I'm an incredibly visual learner. I learn a lot of my stuff by watching and I learn a lot of my stuff by watching videos, doing courses online, something where there is a physical manifestation of the work that I'm trying to do. I think that's incredibly useful for me personally. I know a lot of different students have different learning techniques, like you mentioned the Pomodoro techniques, or doing past papers. I personally like to watch videos, listen to podcasts about subject matter, and I think that's an incredibly useful resource that is freely available to me and available to everybody around the globe today. And I think taking advantage of those resources is something that we should do more of.
So basically, like the way I make past paper walkthrough videos, would you watch that as a visual learner, or?
Yeah, certainly. So for a lot of my GCSE work, for preparation for the assessment, I watched a lot of past paper run-throughs. I think remembering to do past papers is also incredibly important, especially when you're preparing for assessments and tests and things of that nature. I think doing past papers is an incredibly important method of learning and practice.
So is note making
something like that.
So is note making a good option, or digital note making? What do you think? Because I prefer using paper. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Digital note making. Okay, I actually do a little bit of digital note making. Whenever I get ideas, be it for a poem or just to study, I immediately go pick up my phone, go to the Notes app, and type something in, because that's my personal way of remembering things and learning stuff. You personally used paper. I think paper is also incredibly useful. I think it depends from person to person about the kind of
that's right,
the kind of technique that you want to adopt.
I think
find something that suits you.
I mainly switch between paper and digital based writing, so basically suited to the preference of when I should use either both.
And I think it oftentimes changes when based on the subject matter as well. I think when you're learning something that's a bit more technical in nature, using paper would be preferred, would be something that is more useful in those scenarios.
Because
compared to when you're learning something less detail oriented, using digital note taking would be the best solution.
Because I started to like the digital note making as well as the paper based system. I think both are equivalent to each other in different forms.
Yes, certainly. I think there is a level there's a level of specialization, as level of detail that you can achieve from one to another.
And now we have come to the final part of the video. Lastly, what message or advice would you like to share with our listeners, particularly fellow students who aspire to create positive change in their communities and the world at large?
Okay, as far as advice that I would give people, students particularly, as far as making change to the world at large, I would ensure that they would remember that doing your part, you may feel small, you may feel boxed up. I think doing everything within your power to ensure that the world is made a better place, I think taking those steps are important. And just do your part, as well as remember that you are appreciated. You may feel like you are not being given the credit that you deserve. I think remembering that by making small changes, you're creating massive change to the world at large. I think those steps lead up to more collective and more eclectic change around the globe and in your community.
So apply all of this to education, sustainability, and student life.
Certainly. I think those three, especially as far as student is concerned, those three are crucial elements within that sphere.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast video with the special guest Samuel. If you guys have enjoyed this podcast on education, sustainability, student life, and more, do comment below on what your thoughts are about this video. Really do comment below what your thoughts are about this video. What are the improvements we can do for this video, and any other suggestions. And if you guys have enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And Samuel's descriptions and details are in the description box, and time codes are also there in the description box, so that you guys can skip to any part you guys like. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, bye guys.